When survival becomes a crime, the double jeopardy Black women face. Have you ever wondered why some people stay in situations that seem unbearable from the outside? I recently had the profound opportunity to interview Christina Mullins, a remarkable advocate whose life's work has been dedicated to supporting Black women surviving domestic violence. Christina isn't just an advocate, she's a warrior for justice, a beacon of hope for countless women trapped in cycles of violence, and a visionary whose work is literally saving lives. Her insights changed everything I thought I knew about survival, justice, and what it truly means to be in a soft girl era when the world has only taught you hardness. 22%. That's not just a number. That's nearly 1 in 4 Black women reporting intimate partner violence in just the last 5 years, higher than any other racial or ethnic group in America. But here's what keeps me up at night after my conversation with Christina. For Black women between 18 and 34, the risk isn't just injury. They are 6 times more likely to be shot and killed by an intimate partner than their white counterparts. 6 times. Let that sink in for a moment. 6 times more likely to die at the hands of someone who supposedly loves them. When we talk about a soft girl era, about finally prioritizing rest and joy and boundaries, we must acknowledge a painful truth. For many Black women, softness isn't just a lifestyle choice they haven't gotten around to yet. It's a luxury they literally cannot afford because softness can be deadly when you're fighting to stay alive. Christina Mullins has spent decades documenting how Black women face what she calls a double jeopardy: violence from their partners, then criminalization when they defend themselves. Her daughter's incarceration, stemming from this very cycle, is testament to how deeply this pattern cuts across generations. When Black women defend themselves from abuse, Christina told me, her voice steady but heavy with the weight of experience, they are often criminalized for it. I want to share 3 stories today that illuminate this crisis, not because they're comfortable, they aren't, but because they matter, because they're happening right now, because they could be happening to someone you know. First, there's Cassie Ventura's story. In 2024, Cassie bravely came forward about the alleged abuse she suffered at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs. For years, she endured cycles of emotional manipulation and physical violence while facing immense pressure to remain silent. Why? Because her abuser wielded extraordinary power, not just over her career, but over her very sense of self. What struck me most about Cassie's testimony wasn't just the abuse itself, it was how she described the aftermath of each incident: the apologies, the gifts, the promises, the brief periods of calm before the storm returned, the way she began to believe she deserved it, the way she convinced herself it would get better. And when she finally found her voice through self love and sought restitution via public testimony, she faced backlash, questions about why she stayed so long, accusations that she was just seeking attention or money. But her courage inspired countless others. By sharing her story publicly, despite the criticism, Cassie modeled self liberation for others trapped in similar cycles. She showed how speaking up can break generational silence around domestic violence. This isn't just about celebrities, though. Christina shared with me data from the KFF Women's Health Survey that paints a devastating picture. Nearly 1 in 4 Black women has experienced recent intimate partner violence. Almost half suffer physical injury as a result. Many victims come from low income households or are unmarried mothers with young children. factors that increase vulnerability while decreasing options for escape. Where do you go when you have no money, no support system, and children to protect? When the person who hurts you is also the person who pays the rent. Community based shelters have stepped up outreach efforts targeting high risk neighborhoods, but chronic underfunding remains an obstacle nationwide. The data shows that where robust services exist, legal advocacy plus housing plus trauma care survivors report higher rates of successfully leaving abusive partners without further harm. But here's where Christina's insights become truly heartbreaking. The National Black Women's Justice Institute highlights how defending oneself against an abuser can lead directly to incarceration, a double punishment uniquely affecting Black female survivors. Survivors must choose between risking death at home or risking prison if forced into acts deemed criminal while trying simply not to die. Generations old stereotypes about angry or dangerous Black femininity fuel harsher punishments compared with white counterparts facing similar circumstances. Christina's daughter knows this reality intimately. She survived domestic violence only to find herself incarcerated as the result of circumstances stemming from that same cycle of abuse. One trauma compounded by another, sanctioned by the very system that should have protected her. This is the antithesis of what a soft girl era should be. This is the reality that makes softness seem impossible for so many. But there is hope. Legal defense funds like Survived and Punished advocate policy reforms so courts recognize context when prosecuting self defense cases involving abused women. Some states have begun reconsidering mandatory sentencing guidelines where clear evidence exists that violent acts were committed under duress or self preservation. Growing media attention has led lawmakers across several states to consider bills protecting domestic violence victims who act in self defense from automatic prosecution. Each reform saves lives twice over. First, by validating survival instincts instead of blaming them. Second, by keeping families together rather than compounding loss through incarceration. Christina's work reminds us that breaking free requires real support, not judgment and systemic change. Survivors need access to resources like safe housing, legal aid, trauma counseling, and community support to escape abusive situations alive. But too often, these supports are out of reach due to poverty or discrimination. Many stay because they fear for their lives or those of their children if they leave. I want to pause here and acknowledge something important. If you're sitting there thinking, I would never stay in an abusive relationship, I understand that reaction. I used to think the same thing, but Christina taught me that this response, while natural, misses the point entirely. The question isn't why does she stay? The question is why does he abuse? And why don't our systems protect her when she tries to leave? Because here's what the data shows: the most dangerous time for a woman in an abusive relationship is when she attempts to leave. That's when homicide rates spike dramatically. That's when threats extend to children, to family members, to anyone she loves. Staying isn't weakness. Sometimes staying is a survival strategy. And for Black women specifically, the calculus becomes even more complicated. Will calling the police bring help? Or will it bring harm to the father of your children? Will seeking assistance mean scrutiny from child protective services? Will defending yourself land you in prison? These aren't hypothetical questions. They're life or death decisions made by real women every single day. So, what do we do with this knowledge? How do we move forward? First, we must acknowledge the truth of what's happening. 22% of Black women experiencing intimate partner violence in 5 years isn't just a statistic, it's an epidemic. Being 6 times more likely to be killed by a partner isn't just a disparity, it's a crisis. Second, we must support organizations doing the work on the ground. Community based shelters, legal defense funds, trauma counseling services. These lifelines need our financial support, our volunteer hours, our advocacy. Third, we must push for policy changes that recognize the unique challenges faced by Black women survivors. This means reforming self defense laws, increasing funding for culturally competent services, and addressing the systemic racism that compounds trauma at every turn. And finally, we must create spaces where survivors can speak their truth without judgment, where "why did you stay" is replaced with "how can I help," where softness isn't a luxury but a right. I want to end with a challenge, a disruption to how we think about this issue. Right now, somewhere in your community, a woman is making impossible choices. She's calculating risks. She's planning escapes that may never happen. She's wondering if survival itself might become her crime. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you look away because it's uncomfortable? Or will you become part of the solution? Christina Mullins didn't look away. She devoted her life to this fight. Her daughter's story reminds us what's at stake. And now you know too. So I ask you, what's one action you'll take today? Will you donate to a shelter? Will you learn the signs of abuse so you can support someone who needs it? Will you call your representatives about reforming self defense laws? Will you simply commit to never asking, "why did she stay?" but instead, "how can we help her leave safely?" Because the truth is, we don't need more judgment. We need more justice. We don't need more questions about why women stay. We need more answers about how to keep them safe when they leave. This isn't just about domestic violence. This is about who we are as a society. This is about whether we truly believe that every person deserves safety, dignity, and the chance to live without fear. I believe they do. Christina Mullins believes they do. And I hope after today, you do too. The path to true change begins with this moment right now, when you decide that no woman should have to choose between enduring abuse and facing prison. No daughter should grow up believing that her safety comes at the cost of her freedom. Stand up, speak out, and remember, until all of us are safe, none of us truly are. Thank you.